Yeah, okay. Casualties of War. I had a really kind of a strong reaction to it, a lot stronger than I thought I would. Just because I felt like it was it was false somehow. It was uh supporting the system. It was making it seem like, okay, rah rah, the army, it's a very difficult job, but the army is doing it, you know, and maybe there's some exceptions, and there's some bad things that happen, but it's all good. But it's not the case. It's just I felt like there's one thing that you sent that was good, that it's used the word whitewashing, and I think that makes sense, or that word makes sense to me. It's whitewashing uh the army, and it seems kind of a very subtle propaganda to me, um in the sense that it's continuing the idea that in the end, that the American military is virtuous, and that in the end we're all just trying to do good, and it's Uncle Sam and bald eagles screeching in the mountain air, and freedom, and you know guns, and it's all good, and we're the heroes, and it was just that's not the way the world is. I guess it was hard for me to express it last night, and it's still a little hard for me to express it right now. But um, I guess you could say that there's two aspects of it. One is uh the specific political situation that they're in the Vietnam War, right? And the second is the specific the more general moral dilemma that they're trying to resolve, that could be applied to so many other similar moral dilemmas in life in general. Meaning, like, how do you uh, be a good person and be a moral person in a system and in a world where there's so much evil, and the evil people don't have to follow the rules, and if you don't go by the rules, then it's very dangerous for you. And so how do you make that work? And so both those questions are interesting, and I think it fails to it's too simplistic on both of those questions. And being and simplistic in a way that I think in the 1980s is okay, in that the studio system, in that filmmaking, I think, okay, I can let it pass. But for me, in 2023, and the experiences I've had, it just it doesn't affect me anymore. It doesn't resonate with me, because it needs to be more nuanced than that. It needs to really take a look at life. Uh, that's the introduction. But having said that, I really appreciate the structure of the screenplay, and the meaning that the way they've structured the moral dilemma. It's interesting, you know. How is this guy put in the situation, and he needs to do this thing, but it's defend this woman, and there's a moral line, and it's difficult to keep that moral line, and it's believable why it's very difficult, and so you feel the narrative tension, and so in that sense it's good, but it's just too. I didn't believe it. I wasn't invested emotionally, because I just didn't believe the whole setup of it, and this is why. So the two issues. One is the specific political situation talking about the Vietnam War. It's just and I know that, as we talked about this last night, I'm someone that comes to this having having close associations with Vietnamese people and Vietnamese culture over 27 years, and then having lived in Vietnam for 20 years, having known people that have gone through the war and knowing the effects of the war. So, I mean, I come from a very specific perspective, right? Um, but just learning about the history of how the war came about, and the fact that it was just so political. I mean, the only reason we're in there, and that, Americans are going to help these people, what does that mean? Help them by killing them? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. But just the whole situation is simply because the geopolitical situation where there's a beef between these two sides of the Cold War, and no real, and the fact that America created South Vietnam, essentially, the fact that America was going against its democratic values by going in and preventing Vietnam from having a vote to decide who their leader is going to be. The fact that, basically what it comes down to is, and it sounds, I know this can sound kind of cold, or somehow it might not sound right to a lot of people, but in that scene where they are looking down across the river to the VCs getting off the boat, uh, and then um, you have I don't even know the character's name, the Vietnamese woman, um, and so they very or it's the movie is telling us it's very much okay for them to shoot those VCs, and of course not of course those soldiers are put in that situation, so they have to, right? I'm not saying those specific soldiers, but like in a grander moral question, it's okay for those those Viet Cong to be killed, but not this woman. Um, which to me, at first, it might sound like, okay, what do you mean by that? Because those Viet Cong, they're just trying to defend their homes. That's all they're trying to do. And that's the same thing this woman is doing. So why is it so okay just to shoot and blow up all these other people? I mean, okay, yes, okay, under um what do you call it? The rules of what do you
Engagement.
call it? The rules of engagement. Yes, I mean, okay, they have guns and they're enemy combatants. Um, but when taking a macro look at the whole political situation, these people are just trying to defend their homes, and it's the same thing with the girls, with that particular girl, and it just does the moral line between it is just not so was not so fuzzy. It was not so clear to me. It was much fuzzier. And so the overwhelming feeling that I got when watching it was the hypocrisy of the film in defending the U.S. government and in taking the U.S. government side. That okay, so then they go and justice is found, and then these guys get their sentences, and then everything is right with the world, when it's like it doesn't make any sense to me. The whole thing doesn't make any sense to me. And so morally speaking, it just I couldn't invest my emotion into it because the whole thing was senseless. But and in addition to that, those particular political decisions that led to that, which are hypocritical, it's also, if you as the government are putting people in a situation where they're having to kill other people, uh, and they're in a situation where other people are killing the men to the right and the left of them. If you put in, especially in a situation where they're in the Vietnam War, where these villagers, you don't know if they're trying to kill you or not. You don't know if this woman, if this child is going to try and kill you. You don't know who's the enemy and who's your friend. And what that does to the psyche, what that does to a human being, you know. And yes, it's wrong according to the rules of engagement. This kind, of course, it's wrong to rape and murder, but it's you put people in the situation, that is what's going to happen. That is war. And so to me, the fault doesn't completely lie with the soldiers. It just goes back to the politicians. It just goes back to the US government. Because what do you expect? When you put people in the situation, that's what's going to happen because you're fucking with their minds and with their hearts. garbage in, garbage out, and that's what's going to happen. So the moral line that the movie is drawing, where it's like, oh yes, rules of engagement, and the rules of engagement on this side where we can shoot VCs, it's very clear, and that's okay. And then on this side, when you know they're non-combatants, non-enemy combatants, and we can't do anything, very clear. It's a very fuzzy line to me, and in the end, it just goes back to the fault is the U.S. government, man, and the fact that the movie in the end was kind of rah-rahing the system, and in the end, everyone was the feeling is, oh yeah, that the system works, and maybe there's some that get away, but and maybe there's some people that some instances where it's uh there is some rape and there's some murder and you can't get all of them, but look at how the system is working in this case, um where to me, I mean, you could frame this. I was telling you yesterday. You could frame this movie in a way that you can make it a Pyrrhic victory, which would ring more true to me, in the sense that if you see so many other massacres and crimes committed by soldiers, where you see the My Lai massacre, you see a lot more rapes, you see a lot of the things like men going crazy and destroying families and villages because they have no idea who's going to kill them and who's not, right? And if you see a lot of these, and then this one instance is brought to justice, but then you've seen all these other instances in the film, and you see all these other soldiers that have committed these crimes, and they're just in the chow line, they're just doing their thing, and you realize that this is just the system is broken, that it's not actually working, and then you have this one instance where it works, but these thousands of others where it hasn't and it can't. That would be something that would resonate with me more than this did, because it just seems like Hollywood rah-rah filmmaking in the end, you know. So that's the one aspect of this particular political situation that the movie is framed in the Vietnam War. And the second aspect is probably not I'm not so clearly as against the position of the film, but still it just didn't resonate with me in a sense. The more general moral dilemma that what do you do? Try as a moral person, as a good person in a world that where evil people can break the rules. You know, uh, how do you, who has to follow the rules, um, stay a moral person when it's very dangerous for you to do that because all the evil people are breaking the rules. And I was going to tell you last night. That's one reason I really love Game of Thrones, is because it takes on that question so beautifully in the first four seasons, and then it just kind of everything goes down the crapper, by the end. But you should take a look at it, I think, for that reason, because of that question that it's asking, at least the first half of the show. And that's a very interesting question to me, and I think a lot because I felt that in my life in Vietnam, because in my life in once you try and bump up against the uh the power structures in society, the people who are really do have power in society. If you live your life and you take your salary and you live in some kind of remote corner of society, and you have your family and you eat your food and you do what you love to do, and that's it, and you don't bother anyone, okay, it's fine, life is okay. But once you are getting to a position where you're trying to uh, be in a position where you have power in society to make decisions that affect society, like in the film industry, like in politics, like at the heads of business, like in business, once you get up to that echelon, you start bumping against that. The rules are different, and it's a nasty, nasty game. Um, it's nasty, and the rules don't apply in the same way that they do for normal society. And so that's why this question has been very interesting to me, because I felt that way. I felt just battered just by bumping up against it, not even really being able to be in it yet, but just by bumping up against it in the last, few years, uh, has just really done a number on me. It's like, how do you be a good person in an evil world? Um, and I've just through sad experience, I felt like in my life, you have to let evil be evil. Because if you try and be a policeman and try and be a hero and try and be the good guy, you will be destroyed. You will be destroyed. That's the what I have seen in my life. And not just, personal experience, as well as just looking gradually seeing how power works and seeing how the world works. That's why there's there are no good people in power. And so that's what kind of didn't resonate with me about this movie, is that, okay, it's a true story. I mean, is it? I mean, yeah, I guess it's a true story. Maybe this thing happened in this one instance, but it doesn't resonate with me because that's not how it would normally go down. If uh someone is in a position where they are determined to do evil things and break the rules, they are willing to do anything to protect themselves. And maybe in this one instance, uh private the Michael J. Fox character, maybe he gets away with it somehow. Maybe he's able to escape the wrath of these other people, or escape, they don't. So just like in this situation, okay, it's a real life event where this guy was able to refuse participating in the rape, uh and two, then refusing to kill her, and then able to leave and get out of that situation and then report to his superiors. And okay, and I guess technically that could happen and that's fine. But in my experience, the reason it didn't resonate with me, in my experience, that's not the lesson to take away from this, because that doesn't happen. Again, it's still rah rah, the system works. When it doesn't, the system will tear you up, will chew you up and spit you out. And the people in power are the ones that are ruthless. And if you try and be policeman and hero and go against them, they will destroy you. And so when I was watching the movie, I was thinking, okay, what would I do in this situation? What is the way to be good in an evil world? And in my mind, you have to let evil just be evil, because you know evil's gonna evil, man. And then you do your thing as best you can. And I know last night you asked me, so what would you do in that situation? I mean, I don't know. I don't know what I do. To appease somehow, you know, could I get away without participating in the rape? I don't know. Or if it came to it where, they put a gun to him and said either you rape or you die, then I don't know what I do. And that, it seems like in my mind, if the movie was a reflection of society, of that question honestly, then that is how far it has to take it. With the Michael J. Fox character, he has to decide: am I going to participate in this, or am I going to die? Then it would resonate more with me, because that seems to be the way the world works. So in both of those questions, I mean, again, like I said, it's the movie for being a studio film in the '80s, and I mean, that's great. What they were able to do to make uh, you know, discuss some moral ambiguities about war and about America's participation in Vietnam and all that. But and it's great, and I commend it for that. And also, I commend the film for as truthful a depiction of Vietnam and Vietnamese people as I've seen in an American film about Vietnam. Vietnamese people actually speaking Vietnamese, and the Vietnamese characters looked Vietnamese and it looked like Vietnam. And for them to do that, I mean, they must have shot it in Thailand. I don't think it was the Philippines. I mean, it looked more like Thailand to me than the Philippines. Yeah, it's Thailand. Then I mean, it's very commendable. More so than any other film that I've seen, I think. And so I can't say that it's I can't completely dog on the film. It's just it didn't resonate with me. And understand again, 80s filmmaking, it can't be that nuanced that I want it to, as I want it to be. And so I'm not dogging on the film. It's just I'm explaining why it didn't resonate with me, and it needs to be more nuanced and go deeper into the realities of life and that particular political situation, um, to really have a profound effect on me. That's what I'd say.